working with a man who has Comolex regional pain syndrome in his wrist. We've started releasing emotion, but he keeps drifting off to sleep. Sometimes he's in a state somewhere in the middle, but he's babbling incoherently. I gave suggestions that he will relax only as much as will allow him to hear my voice and be prepared to respond by using his voice to say the learnings when I ask him to, but he drops between sleep, babbling, and saying his learnings. I have been using direct tone and language to keep him with me. Have you had one like this? Oh yeah, I've had lots like that. I have a lot of people who drift off to sleep in the past when they're going down to one level too deep. So once again, be prepared for me to say something that goes against the norm, because that's what I do, right? I don't necessarily believe what others have got to say about anything. It's based on my personal experience working with thousands of clients, and that's all we can do is go by our own experience. So my experience is that once a client is asleep, that is that they have reached that delta range, so they are asleep, they are not receiving your suggestions. So I don't care what anyone else says about that they don't agree. You know, there's so many people that said, oh, that's okay, they're still hearing the suggestions. I call BS on that. And that's from my experience, where I know that people who have fallen asleep have not had the same successful impact that people who are at the proper theta state. So there is different levels of consciousness. We start at beta, where we're talking consciously. One level down is alpha, where they're in the light trance. And then we've got them in the deeper trance, which is at theta. And then we are in delta, which is in the deep trance. Fast asleep. So my opinion is if they fall asleep, they are not listening to what is being said. So, and in fact, I can even vouch for that for myself this last weekend when I attended the Brian Weiss 3-day event, and I'd fallen asleep a number of times. I can tell you, I didn't hear a word. So what needs to happen is that you need to keep them at that theta state. You need to make sure that they're at the right state and they don't go down to delta, because if they go down to delta, the success is not going to be the same. That's been my experience anyway. And so how do we do that? How do we make sure that our clients do not fall asleep? One way that I make sure that they don't fall asleep is, first of all, is when you know that they go in too deep, I would write a note on your file that says no deep trance, no deepness. So what you need to do with that kind of client is give them an instant induction. So don't give them a progressive muscle relaxation. Don't give them a big long induction, because you would have lost them before it's time to give them the real work. So the first thing is give them an instant or a rapid induction so that they don't fall asleep. Secondly, with those type of clients that fall asleep too easily, I've even put them in an uncomfortable chair. So instead of putting them in the recliner, where some of them, as soon as they hit the recliner, they're gone, you put them in a normal chair. Third thing is I keep the hypno talk going, so that I'm always making sure that I say, allow the voice to speak and, allow the voice to speak and. Another little trick that I have is that I get clients to hold up their hand nice and rigid, and so that their hand has to stay up and rigid for the entire session. So if they're in trance, they're able to do that with no problem at all. So that way you're keeping them in the relevant state. So I hope that's been helpful. They're my little techniques in terms of making sure that the person stays in the appropriate state and they do not go to sleep, okay, in that delta state.